Do you enjoy learning with Vibal? Make your experience even more exciting by becoming a Vibal Group fan. Exclusive perks await fan subscribers. Get access to exclusive webinars. Enjoy free teaching resources. Check out exclusive content. Get discounts on Vibal products. All of these for only 55 pesos a month. Exciting, right? Subscribe as a fan now. Here's how. Visit, click, follow. First, visit Vibal Group's Facebook page. Then click Become a Supporter to purchase a monthly subscription. Lastly, follow the prompts that appear on your screen. But don't confuse this for top fan. Nuh-uh, it's a different thing. You need to follow the easy steps. Visit, click, follow. Be a Vibal Group fan and enjoy exciting perks today.
Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our Learn at Home learning session. For the discussion today, the topic will be on what is design thinking. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal! And now, to proceed with our webinar this evening, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Jejomar Bongat, commonly known to his students and colleagues as Sir Jejo, is designated as Special Science Teacher 2 at the Philippine Science High School main campus. He handles the selected topics in engineering elective for grades 11 and 12 students, and he also used to teach probability and statistics to grade 9 students under the PSHS 6-year curriculum. He graduated from the University of the Philippines Diliman with a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering and has completed the academic coursework for the Master of Science degree of the same specialization. His research interests include optimization, simulation, and system dynamics. He is currently enrolled in the Master in Learning and Teaching program of the De La Salle University, Brother Andrew Gonzalez College of Education. Prior to joining the education sector, he had experience as a management consulting analyst and a sales data analyst for two reputable multinational companies. This allowed him to bridge the gap between theory and practice, and he uses this to his advantage in developing instructional innovations and fostering an innovation culture. He has attended and delivered various workshops on a wide array of topics, including but not limited to design thinking, system dynamics, and resource optimization. One of his key aspirations is to be able to apply his engineering and innovation background in improving learning experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Jejomar Bongat.
Hi, good evening everyone, and thank you very much for joining sa webinar natin ngayong gabi. And please allow me to share my screen po. Okay, sana po ay nakikita na ninyo ang aking screen. So, para sa ngayong gabi, for tonight, we're going to kick off a series of 3 webinars with the theme Enhancing Learning Experiences Through Design Thinking. So, ang umpisa natin dito ay, syempre, ano ba ang design thinking? To be honest, natutunan ko ang design thinking nung nag-apply na ako magturo sa Bisay. Pero, ang nangyari, na-realize ko rin na ina-apply ko na pala siya at ginagamit ko siya several times nung nasa corporate ako at kahit nung undergraduate studies ko pa. So, bago tayo mag-umpisa, ako ay magpapakilala lang ulit sandali. Magandang gabi po. Ako ay si Jejomar Bongat. At actually, nasabi na po ni Miss Jillian lahat ng tungkol sa akin. So, nagtuturo po ako ngayon sa Philippine Science High School main campus at nag-aaral rin po ako ng Master in Learning and Teaching sa De La Salle University. So, tulad po ng sinabi ko kanina, 3-part series po ito. So yung una po is yung ngayong gabi, what is design thinking? So i-introduce ko po yung theories and good case practices, mga tips po natin sa design thinking. Tapos pangalawa po, I will be discussing next week on Friday, June 25, kung paano natin magagamit ang design thinking bilang mga guro. Design thinking in the education context. And finally, so sa July 2, another Friday evening, gusto kong ma-share naman sa inyo kung paano ko naituturo ang design thinking sa ating mga estudyante. Actually, itong pangatlo will be very essential, lalo na sa mga guro na nag-facilitate ng mga integrated projects, ng mga investigative reports and investigative projects, mga research. So nakakatulong yan. Pero ngayong agabi, focus muna tayo sa kung ano ba talaga ang design thinking. So mag-umpisa tayo sa objective natin para sa gabing ito. And this is to understand design thinking as a modular problem-solving approach na nagagamit not just in engineering, hindi lang sa pag-develop ng products, ng innovations, pero nagagamit siya across different fields and disciplines. So, ang keyword dito, syempre, maliban sa design thinking at sa problem-solving, is modular. Ano bang ibig sabihin natin kapag sinasabi natin na ang isang bagay ay modular? Una, yung proseso natin ng design thinking, hindi natin siya kinukuha as a whole. Pwede natin siyang hati-hatiin into multiple phases or stages. But more importantly, hindi po linear ang proseso ng design thinking. Siguro at this point, kailangan ko mag-disclaimer kasi may linear process akong gagamitin para i-discuss sa inyo kung ano ang design thinking. Pero sana maalala nating lahat na yung iba't ibang stages ng design thinking ay hindi prerequisite ng isa't isa. Pwede tayong tumalon-talon from one phase or one stage to another when the opportunity arises. At bago ako mag-dive into the processes behind design thinking, siguro kailangan natin mag-set ng konting perspective. Yung perspective na how do we flourish in undergoing design challenges with design thinking. So may konti tayong encouraged mindsets. Hindi naman ito ipinipilit, pero it will help you become more successful problem solvers. So una is the creative confidence. So if you have creative confidence, you're free to explore, hindi ka natatakot na magkamali, hindi ka natatakot na mag-fail yung suggestion or yung proposed solution mo. And in fact, hindi masama ang loob mo kapag nangyayari yon kasi natututo ka sa iyong pagkakamali. You learn from your mistakes. And then pangalawa is the empathy. Very important ang empathy sa design thinking, and it's very important in the sense na it's in fact the first or most commonly known as the first phase of design thinking. So, you think about your beneficiaries. Kung sino yung target users mo. Users ng solution, ng innovation na gusto mong i-develop. Okay, parang nahuhuli ko yung sarili ko na nagsasabi ako tungkol sa solution, innovation. Baka iniisip nyo na pang product design to, pang engineering to, pero hindi ba't may mga problems tayo na na-encounter bilang mga guro, lalo na ngayon sa distance learning na dulot ng pandemya? Di ba maaari naman nating gawin na tayo ay sumubok na gumawa ng solusyon at ng innovations para ma-improve natin ang ating instructional delivery. And more importantly, para ma-improve natin ang learning experiences ng ating mga beloved learners. So yan ang aking personal mission, and at the same time, siguro dyan ako magfo-focus sa ating Learn at Home session next week. And finally, collective thinking and collaboration. So hindi naman kailangan na collective thinking as in iisa lang yung idea na gagamitin ninyo as an entire design team. Mas importante yung collaboration na nagtutulungan kayo. You build on top of each other's ideas. Pero at the same time, kaya may collective thinking dyan kasi lahat kayo nag-iisip at lahat kayo nag-work together to develop a proposed innovation or a proposed solution. So, with that, pwede na tayo mag-proceed sa next nating slide. Basically, yung 5 stages of design thinking. So first is we empathize. By the way, itong graphic na ito ay kinuha ko po sa Stanford Design School. So we empathize, and then we define the problem, we ideate or think of solutions, tapos itong solutions na ito ipa-prototype at itetest natin. Paano tayo magpa-prototype given na ang mga gusto nating ma-solve na problems as teachers are not exactly yung mga tangible na bagay? Actually, marami pa rin tayong paraan na pagpa-prototype ng ating mga proposed innovations sa ating pagtuturo at sa ating mga online classrooms or sa ating distance learning. It's just that may ibang methods tayo for that. And mag-share ako ng konti later this evening, pero next week, mas magbabahagi pa ako ng mas maraming mga techniques for that. So, and of course, importante na tinetest natin ang mga solutions na dine-develop natin para further and continuous yung improvement natin. Sa amin, sa industrial engineering, may isang concept na tinuro na yun yung tumatak talaga sa akin. And that is the concept of Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. So ngayon, tulad na sinabi ko kanina, hindi naman kinakailangan na maging chronological dahil modular itong design thinking. Pero I will just explain this in a chronological manner. So, we start with empathy, which is being able to put yourself in another person's shoes. Hindi lang pag-intindi, kundi pag-unawa. Importante na may empathy tayo para sa mga tao na gusto nating tulungan. At ba't ko sinasabing tao? Kasi actually ang design thinking is also known as human-centered design. So you really revolve around the concerns, the needs, and the values of the people who will use your innovation, who will use your solution. And kaya importante yung empathy kasi tinutulungan tayo nito na i-set aside yung sarili nating mga assumptions. Ideally, hindi tayo aasa sa point of view natin, sa concerns, sa issues, at saka sa needs ng gusto nating matulungan. Ideally, we understand, we empathize with, and we take ownership from their perspective. And may konti tayo mga paraan kung paano mag-empathize. Una is active listening. Siyempre, na-experience na rin siguro natin na may nagkakwento sa atin, pero yung minsan na parang disinterested tayo, so parang pasok sa isang tenga, labas sa kabila. Pero in active listening, hindi ganun ang dapat nangyayari. Kung ano yung information na napaprocess mo through your hearing senses, ideally, dapat napaprocess mo siya mentally at nade-deduce mo from there kung ano ba talaga yung needs, wants, and values ng gusto mong matulungan. And ginagamit ang active listening, not just in listening in their casual conversations or to their stories, but also as we interview the end users and as we immerse in their situations. So, when we interview for empathy, this is the most common technique. Hindi ka sana magsawa na magtanong ng bakit. You ask why and you probe into reasons. And then you encourage stories, but at the same time, don't be afraid of silence. Yung silence na nangyayari kapag sa nagkukwento siya based on a response to a prompt, that's completely normal, and that is a good sign na nag-iisip at nagre-reflect yung kausap mo. But at the same time, you should be on the lookout for patterns and inconsistencies. Ano ba yung palaging lumalabas sa sinasabi niya? And may contradictions ba sa mga sinasabi niya? And most importantly, itong mga do not. Do not ask leading questions and do not suggest answers. Ang magdadrive dapat ng conversation, ideally, ay yung ini-interview mo, yung gusto mong matulungan, yung gusto mong magkaroon ka ng innovation na makikinabang siya. Pero kapag magtanong ka kasi ng leading questions or kapag mag-suggest ka na answers, yung perspective mag-iiba, madadivert. Instead of maging perspective niya or perspective nila, magiging perspective mo. And mahirap po yun. So, ito yung mga tips ko for interviewing for empathy. And we can now proceed to defining the problem. When we're defining the problem, importante na malinaw at maganda ang problem definition natin kasi ito po ay nagdadala ng kalinawan at ng direction sa ating design process. So we develop a problem statement based on what the information that you have, whether it is from the empathy phase or from other phases of the process or from other sources of information. But at the same time, tinatawag rin to na isang design brief. Ang design brief ay maganda kapag una, as your design team, you can act upon it. Pwede mo siyang aksyonan. May call to action for you as a design team to actually solve the problem. But at the same time, dapat ikinikwento siya mula sa pananaw, sa point of view, at sa perspective ng mga target users nang gusto mong magawa ng solution for, nang gusto mong matulungan. It also preserves emotion and the character of the users of the solution being designed for. So, yung emotion na ito at saka yung character, it gives personality and it gives ownership of the problem and the eventual solution sa mga target users mo. And dahil gusto mo na may character at emotion siya, it should use strong language, but it should make sense. And most importantly, it should open the door for many possibilities. Hindi siya restrictive. So may konti akong tips on writing such a design brief. So when you write a design brief, first of all, it should be human-centered. Human-centered design ika nga. And you write it, you frame it according to the specific users, their insights, ano yung mga pananaw nila, at ano yung mga pangangailangan nila, their needs. And then next, the design brief or the problem statement should allow for creative freedom. Iniiwasan natin na ang design team, tayo as design thinkers, iniiwasan natin na ma-lock in tayo sa mga specific na solution. But at the same time, we should have a manageable problem statement. Nagpapasok pa rin tayo ng constraints. Pero yung mga reasonable constraints na hindi nakakahadlang sa creativity, but at the same time, nag-e-ensure na maging realistic yung ating design challenge. So ito po, may example po ako na ipapakita sa inyo. Galing po to sa XPRIZE na isang organization na nagfa-facilitate at nag-i-sponsor actually ng mga design challenges all over the world. So nung nag-start yung pandemic, of course, nagkaroon ng design challenge tungkol sa mga mask. And this is how they wrote the design brief. By the way, that photo of mine was taken around November 2020. First time kong lumabas na extended period of time since the start of the pandemic. Kaya po naka-double mask ako. Surgical tapos may cloth. And yun yung na-realize ko dito sa design challenge na ito. So the design brief reads, we need an alternative. Face masks that are readily accessible and affordable, functional for our everyday lives, fit a wide variety of wearers, and are effective in protecting the wearer and the community. Medyo complicated or challenging yung pagkakasulat nitong design brief na to. In fact, may isa pang paragraph that led to this na hindi ko na po sinama sa slide para hindi po maging gaanong text heavy. Pero may share ako dun sanang technique na para maging mas madali yung ating paggawa ng mga design brief or ng problem statement. And this is also called the POV or the point of view statement. Para po sa mga math and science teachers po dyan, natulad ko rin somehow, I'm sure natutuwa po kayo na nakakakita kayo ng mga equal sign at saka ng mga plus sign. Kasi basically, it's like a formula. The point of view is equal to the persona, which is yung characterization ng target user. Di ba sabi ko kanina, maganda na may character yung pagkakakwento natin sa ating target users or pag-profile natin sa kanila. Next ay yung needs. So ano yung kailangan nila? Ano yung pinangangalahagahan nila? Ano yung vina-value nila? What do they give importance to? And finally, yung insights. So yung insights, dito pumapasok yung information na nakuha nyo, especially when you do your empathy work before defining the problem. Your observations also come in here. And it is quite good if you're going to document and take note of the surprises that you encounter along the way. So kung babalikan natin, itong napakahaba na design brief na to, which is actually a very good design brief, it can be simplified into this. The persona is the general population. Hindi tayo makapaglagay ng napaka-specific na characteristics because the entire world needs masks, lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng pandemya. At yun yung need, face masks. Tapos ano yung insight natin? Yung face mask dapat accessible, affordable, functional, at effective. So kung pagsamasamahin natin yung mga concepts at phrases na yan, you can simply restate the problem in a much simpler way, which is that the general population needs face masks that are accessible, affordable, functional, and effective. So this is how you come up with a design brief or a problem statement. Medyo complicated yung process niya. It requires a lot of, as the students call it nowadays, brain cells, or in our case, it requires a lot of thought and there's a lot of processing that is involved. Pero in the end, pwede mo siyang i-simplify further para may ownership kayo as a design thinker, as a design team, at may ownership din yung target users niyo, yung beneficiaries, yung gusto ninyong matulungan. And now we can proceed to ideation. Medyo mas chill at mas madali na po ito. Kapag nag-ideate tayo, nag-iisip tayo ng solutions, hindi lang po siya basta-basta brainstorming. It's the bulk of it, pero that's just the divergence part. The convergence is the selection. Pipili tayo kung ano yung solutions na gusto nating i-push for, i-prototype, i-test, and gawan ng action. So kapag nagda-diverge tayo, more commonly brainstorming, ideally iniiwasan natin ng judgment. Sana matanggal natin yung lahat ng biases na mayroon tayo, which are unfortunately inherent naman sa ating lahat. And these may influence the thought process. And then we go for quantity. We come up with as many ideas as possible. Now, this may be intimidating kasi mahirap sa atin na i-manage yung sheer number of ideas that may come up in a very active brainstorming session. Pero at the same time, maganda rin kung maging visual tayo. So, usual dito, Manila paper, blackboard, whiteboard, mga sticky notes. You list down ideas para makita mo kung ano yung ideas na na-bring up na at saka may reminders kayo tungkol doon. Tapos kung may idea kayo na gustuhan, pero may naisip pa kayo na paraan na further improve yung idea na ito, please do not hesitate to build on top of it. Maganda na magtulungan, mag-build on top of ideas and enhance the ideas that are already laid out. And finally, it would be nice and it would be essential actually to stay on topic. Dapat focus kayo doon sa na-identify na ninyong mga kailangan ninyong i-address na problems. And kung minsan nahihirapan kayo sa brainstorming process, sa kung paano kayo magsisimula, paano ba natin sisimulan ang brainstorming process? How might we kick off the brainstorming process? And one idea I can share with you is to make use of how might we statements or questions. And usually, kapag nagtatanong tayo ng how might we, pwede nating tanungin kung how might we amplify the good. Basically, kung paano natin ma-maximize kung ano yung mga magandang nangyayari. Or how might we remove the bad? How do we eliminate or tanggalin natin? Paano natin matatanggal yung mga negative factors na na-encounter ng ating target users? Kung meron naman tayong status quo right now, how might we explore the opposite? Paano ba natin babaliktarin ang sitwasyon at paano natin ma-maximize ang mga benefits ng opposite situation but at the same time minimizing the disadvantages? And paano ba natin questionin ang mga assumptions na meron na tayo ngayon? Kasi minsan, itong mga assumptions na to, tulad ng na-mention ko kanina, these assumptions somehow stand as restrictions because nakakalimutan natin na baka pala may other ways to do certain things na hindi natin nakikita dahil may assumptions na tayo na ay ganito lang pala siya. Pwede. So, fortunately, we can use the design thinking process to train ourselves to question assumptions, remove biases, and be more empathetic and understanding of the world around us. And finally, kapag nakapaglista na tayo ng ideas, hindi pwede na yun na yun. Ideally, we shortlist and we choose several ideas. Hindi naman yung isa lang. Yung tipong makapili tayo ng a few, 2, 3, 4 ideas that can be tried out by the design team. We should prioritize, we should make an action plan. So, ito na yung convergence. Yung pagsasama-samahin nyo na lahat ng ideas and pipili na kayo as a design team. So, usually, pwede kayong mag-vote, pwede kayong gumawa ng rubrics, point system, among many other techniques. Pero ideally, pati yung selection process, may consensus ang design team. And kapag nakapili na ng mga ideas or kapag may ideas na on hand na pwede nang pag-aralan further, we can prototype. Ang prototyping is the production of basic models or design forms. It is useful in presenting the innovation or the proposed solution before it is deployed to the target users themselves. But at the same time, pwede nyo na rin i-involve ang intended users ninyo to connect with them, and most importantly, to solicit their evaluation. So kapag may prototyping and testing, of course, meron tayong people involved. It's not just the target users, it's not just the designers even, but it's also the observers. And meron din tayo yung mga objects, so the static or interactive elements of the prototype. And tulad ng minention ko kanina, usually in the engineering context, in the product design and development context, or in the research and development context as well, usually prototypes are tangible. But if we're going to explore opportunities to implement or apply design thinking in education, pwede natin gawin itong mind mapping. So you actually can have a central idea na magsasanga. I'm very sure marami na sa atin familiar dito. Or you can make a storyboard out of about the idea that you have in mind. With that, ang storyboard, pwede ko lang sana i-remind na it ensures the familiarity of the designer of its target users. So, kung familiar ang mga designers sa target users, maiisip nila kung paano mag-communicate visually to their target users. And it also will aid in contextualizing yung solution na dinedesign nyo. Ang pinakamahalaga siguro about using storyboards, especially in our context as teachers, is that standalone sana siya. Although yung pagka-anonymous hindi masyadong mahalaga, pero yung pagiging standalone, yung hindi na kailangan ng someone na mag-e-explain tungkol sa proposed innovation or proposed solution, the storyboard can do it by itself. Yun yung pinaka magandang success indicator para sa isang storyboard. Now, we can also proceed to testing kung may prototype na. And we're going full circle. Kasi ang testing, very similar siya sa empathy work. Kailangan natin mag-test ng solutions, ng prototypes, para makita natin how easy to use yung ating solution, yung ating innovation, and we test it with real intended users. Admittedly, mahirap to ngayong pandemic kasi we're all doing everything, our social interactions online, but non-verbal communication, mahalaga siya. Kasi hindi lang yung mga pananalita, hindi lang yung tono, kundi yung kilos ng participant, ng intended user, should be observed. Kasi may indicators rin about the perceptions of the solution na makukuha from there. And testing is important because it's used to solicit feedback to improve the design of the innovation and to reiterate and create future innovations based on this current innovation that is being developed. So, and when we test, we ask if it works. Syempre, dapat gumagana yung ating proposed solution. Effective dapat siya. And yun nga, minimeasure natin ideally kung gaano siya ka-effective, gaano siya ka-useful and practical. But at the same time, kailangan rin sana natin ma-capture yung thoughts and emotions ng target or intended users natin. And more often than not, we should also ask, we should not glorify our innovation as it is. We should always have a continuous improvement mindset na tinatanong natin, how do we develop it further? So when we do design thinking, as a parting note, ulit-ulitin ko po na non-linear process siya. So when usually you empathize and then define the problem, ideate solutions, prototype the proposed solutions, and then you test the prototypes. Pero for example, from testing, you get new ideas. So you can go back to ideation, or you can go back to ideation coming from prototyping. The tests may also reveal insights that redefine the problem. You empathize to develop the problem statement. Well, that's common. But surprisingly, or rather unsurprisingly, when you do your testing work, when you have a proposal, you have an innovation, you have a solution or a prototype on hand, mas marami ka pang matututunan sa target users mo when you test. And that aids you in developing even more empathy. So these are some of the references that I used for building my materials on design thinking. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Kung may tanong po kayo, please feel free to email me. My email address is on the screen. And please support Vibal Learn at Home. Marami po silang academic books, test booklets, activity sheets, supplements at teach at home guides na pwede ninyong gamitin for your students and for your children even. Para po tuloy-tuloy lang po ang ating pagkatuto habang nasa pandemya pa rin tayo. So that is it, and thank you very much po sa inyong lahat for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Do you have any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
First of all, gusto ko po magpasalamat sa Philippine Science High School Management Committee at saka sa mga mentors ko for inspiring me to become a better educator and for becoming a design thinking specialist to a certain extent. Tapos, in terms of reminders, definitely we're going to see each other next week on Friday night, June 25, for our second part of our design thinking webinar series, and on July 2 as well for the final part of it. So I really hope na may natutunan po kayong lahat sa aking presentation ngayong gabi, at sana po ay mag-attend pa rin po kayo at makinig po sa mga succeeding sessions ng Vibal Learn at Home, as well as sa mga webinars po ng Vibal Group. Thank you very much po.
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very innovative and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. And to all our Vibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. The link is in the caption of this webinar. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vibal Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.